Welcome to the third and final episode in a Legendarium series about the merry history of Christmas. In part 3, we will talk about the holiday's most recent evolution during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. By the 1850s, our modern notion of Christmas had spread into the northeastern United States from the United Kingdom and slowly spread west and south. During this time, the Christmas tree also came to the United States. By then, the hard feelings of the American Revolution had faded, and trade ties between the two countries remained strong. Crowds often gathered around ships arriving in port from the British Isles, clamoring to know if they brought the latest installment of the newest Charles Dickens novel. In 1848, Prince Albert, a native of Germany, introduced the Christmas tree to Victorian Britain, and from there it spread to the United States. Town squares soon bristled with freshly cut evergreen trees to be sold for the holiday season so that people could ring in the holiday like Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. To decorate their trees, celebrants used silver strands made from aluminum and lead foil, which reflected the light of candles, the tree's only light source of the time. Admirers of this new decoration regarded the tinsel as suggestive of the Nativity's star-studded sky, despite its being an appalling fire hazard. Celebrants could also decorate their trees with nuts, popcorn strings, oranges, and candies. By the 1870s, vendors even sold handcrafted ornaments on street corners. As Christmas became more and more popular across the United States, even the church had to change. Traditional Protestant churches still regarded Christmas as a Catholic holiday and refused to hold services related to it, which led Presbyterians, Baptists, and Methodists to seek holiday spiritual nourishment in the fast-growing Catholic Church and Episcopal Church. Fearful of losing their congregations, Protestant ministers suddenly changed their minds about Christmas and decided that holiday services were actually a wonderful idea. To add to the festivities, James Lord Pierpont wrote a song called One Horse Open Sleigh for his church's Thanksgiving concert. In 1857, he re-released the song under the title We Know and Love for Christmas. Of course, Christmas would soon get another important addition. The legend of Santa Claus can be traced back to a monk named Saint Nicholas, born in Turkey around 280 AD. Saint Nicholas gave away his inherited wealth and traveled the countryside helping the poor and sick, becoming known as a protector of children. Among other good deeds, he paid the dowries of 3 sisters so they could be married instead of being sold as slaves. St. Nicholas helped to inspire a host of benevolent winter deities and saints across Europe, some of which merged Christianity and paganism. This kindly holiday saint first entered American popular culture during the 18th century when Dutch families who settled in New York's Hudson Valley gathered to honor the anniversary of the death of a man they called Sinterklaas, which of course inspired the name Santa Claus. In 1822, Episcopal minister Clement Clark Moore of New York wrote a Christmas poem for his daughters called On Account of a Visit from St. Nicholas, better known by its first line, "'Twas the night before Christmas," which makes for a much catchier title. The poem depicted Santa Claus as a jolly elf who flew from home to home on a sled driven by reindeer to deliver toys. At first, Moore did not want people to know he wrote this poem, for he feared a Protestant churchman writing such a frivolity, and one with Catholic and English ties would create a scandal. Yet as his poem became more and more popular among children, he embraced his work. After all, he popularized the idea of Santa Claus. And Santa's custom of going down the chimney dates back to the late medieval era, when people believed that brownies, bawdakes, and witches could enter through a chimney or a window. Santa went through many versions during the 19th century before he became standardized. Even his reindeer went through many names like Flossie, Glossy, Racer, Pacer, Scratcher, Feckless, Ready, Steady, and Fireball. Not that Santa always needed reindeer. Sometimes he appeared as a pagan sorcerer, other times a fearsome gnome, and even a drunkard who rode a sleigh pulled by a giant turkey. The iconic version of Santa Claus as a jolly man in red with a white beard and a sack of toys appeared in 1881, when political cartoonist Thomas Nast drew upon Moore's poem to create the image of old Saint Nick we know today. Within a decade, every department store wanted their own Santa Claus to draw in families, and the Salvation Army began sending Santa Claus-clad donation collectors into the streets, inspiring charity alongside commercialism. This version also inspired the Santa Claus used in Coca-Cola magazine ads more than a generation later, created by illustrator Haddon Sundblom. Why did New York media have such a disproportionate influence? Because it was published around the country, since New York was home to many publishing houses, so what happened in New York often spread to the rest of the country. Of course, it is not Christmas without lights. While people traditionally lit up their trees with candles, as I mentioned before, that is an appalling fire hazard. Things changed in 1878 when Thomas Edison invented the incandescent light bulb. A few years later, he launched an early advertisement for Christmas lighting, courtesy of Edison miniature lamps. Edison touted his early Christmas lights as being without danger, smoke, or smell. The lamps could be rented or purchased, but only used in houses already with electric lights, which limited to the houses of the rich. These early lights included 80 red, white, and blue bulbs designed by Edison himself. The first Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center probably looked more like Charlie Brown's than the glorious one we know today. Construction workers first placed a small undecorated tree there while working in 1931. 2 years later, another tree appeared in its place, this time draped in lights, and since Edison's time, they had become a lot less expensive and could be made in much greater numbers. It kept getting bigger each year, and today the majestic tree bears more than 25,000 twinkling lights and sees millions of visitors each year. In 2018, the Rockefeller Center star measured 9 feet 4 inches in height, bore 70 modules composed of LED lights, and 3 million Swarovski crystals, which supplied the topper's distinct holiday twinkle. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer first appeared in 1939 when the Montgomery Ward department store asked one of its copywriters, Robert L. May, to create a Christmas story for kids that the store could distribute in order to help get their parents into their store. Before settling on Rudolph, the writer considered the names Rollo and Reginald. At first, the idea of a red-nosed reindeer proved controversial, for people associated red noses with drunkenness, which would have endangered Santa's flight. Nonetheless, the story of Rudolph became a phenomenon. The adorable movie featuring the island of misfit toys and Herbie the Elf hit the airwaves a generation later in 1964. Today, more than 98% of Americans celebrate Christmas. In a reminder of the ongoing tension between revelry and religion, another 50 to 60% also attend church services. Between Thanksgiving and New Year's Day, the U.S. Postal Service delivered an estimated 910 million packages in 2019, along with almost 15 billion pieces of mail. That includes gifts for loved ones, cards, Christmas letters, online purchases, missives to Santa, and those dreaded holiday credit card bills. That wraps things up for this Legendarium series. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.